want to do it?
Allow you to steward.
Oh, you want me to steward? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome to everybody. Welcome back to the Cross-Eyed Crucible. It's nice and warm in here. This is me, Matt Faulkner, and that is Kevin Martin over there. We're going to be feeding, tending, nurturing, tracking the Hindi story Angulimala, mostly for part 2 right now. But it's open to all kinds of interpretations. Kevin, would you be willing to walk us across the threshold into the crucible?
Sure. So if you can just find your feet right now and plant them into the ground, plant them into the earth, let the earth know that the earth is witnessing you right now. It's just a good practice to get the spirit to know that it's always in good company, that there's always something that is supporting us. And in grounding our feet into the earth, I just want to go ahead and call in specific ancestors that can help us do this work of mending and tending and growing the heart. Ancestors, thank you for being with us on this journey. We want to do good work in this Cross-Eyed Crucible. We want to talk to the spirit of our companions on this journey, as well as our own spirits, whatever that achiness in the heart. Sometimes you can feel the achiness of life creeping in the heart. Help us tend to that through these stories and through these experiences that we are experiencing in this life. Bring that to the forefront. We want to hear you. We want to hear what you have to say. And so inviting in that presence of knowledge and wisdom, grounded in this space. And we say thank you in advance. I am Brother Kevin Martin. I am going to cross over, and I am in the Cross-Eyed Crucible. It's good to be here.
Yeah, welcome, Kevin. So this is Matt from Michigan, the Blue Hand State. I'm standing at the threshold. I want to acknowledge all the new people who have come to the Crucible, and the benevolent ones, the ones who are proactive, the ones who are recognize that we're going to bring up some things that can feel risky, and that it's done with love. And so I definitely invite in Mother Mary and other counterparts, her sisters like Kuan Yin and the great white buffalo woman. And yeah, please be here with us. We ask for that kind of steadiness and warrior woman courage in the feminine. And then we also ask for, a Mahatma Gandhi energy too, a willingness to be able to walk into the fire and to know which fires are ours to walk into. And that walking into a fire just to get burned isn't the goal here. For us to help us to know that, where are our initiatory experiences, and which are the ones that we can just walk past because they're not for us and we don't have to get involved in them. Guide us in that way, grandmothers and grandfathers. Yeah. And so I'm just grateful to be here with Kevin and all of you. And thank you. I'm across the threshold and into the crucible. Okay.
So there was a few things I wanted to mention.
Yeah.
Beautiful invocation. Thank you so much for tail ending that. And so as you said, Mahatma Gandhi, I was like, he was a problematic figure for so many reasons. And I'm sitting with that our ancestors at one point were humans that were walking the earth, and they all had their issues and their problems. And so as we call them in, it's like, okay, there are some great qualities that you have, and we definitely need that specialty. I just hope that you worked out some of the more problematic stuff. Because Gandhi definitely believed in caste.
Yep.
He believed in that, and we don't believe in that here.
Nope.
And so yeah.
Yeah. And thank you for that, discernment too, like Kevin, because I recognize too, I've heard from plenty of people about the reality of Gandhi and his uh, uh, politics and the things that he did that look really good in a movie, presented in a certain way, maybe weren't all that great in reality. And so he was not perfect. He was not a perfect being, but he's in the other world now. And uh, yeah, can we lean on the wisdom that he brings from the other world, not
Yeah.
invest in the politicization of and his imperfect human behavior while he was on this in this place. Um, because that, yeah. All right, so can we talk about let's talk about Angulimala. Um, one of the things that you and I have gone back and forth about just even prior to recording here is prognostication. I want to jump right into that.
Mhm.
Um, and for me, that is something that I've always had an attraction to. Uh, it's something that I've both in terms of wanting to know what's going to happen, the quality of it. I think that there is a shadow and a light side of it too. There's a codependent side of it. And there's just an acknowledgement of this is a far more complicated world than just, the surface linoleum, uh, there's lots of stuff going on, and it's okay that I want to talk to somebody who says that they've practiced this.
Mhm.
Emphasis on somebody who I can trust, and it feels like they have experience and they're not trying to scam me, because I've seen prognosticators who do that, right, or felt like that to me. Yeah,
I've only went to graduate school. Can you tell me what prognostication means?
it's an expensive word that it's somebody who does reads the stars, reads
Okay.
the
Oh,
cards,
yeah. Mhm.
tries to get access to uh, another phrase of it is the Akashic records.
Yeah. Okay.
you know the stuff that's on the other side, speaking to the people who are on the other side across the threshold,
Mhm.
people who have died, people who are going to be born,
Mhm.
people who are deities and
Mhm.
great souls that have things to share, and that can lead to people being frightened too, because of like our whole investment in um, keeping things on the level of, like I said, the linoleum before,
Mhm.
because it's either on the linoleum and we're going to the mall and we're going to go to the fast food place, and that's the depth of the world, or it's scary because it's like Ouija board weird.
Mhm.
There's
Yeah.
going to be monsters and they're going to say bad things and show up in the middle of the night. you know um, it's not just either one of those. There's all of this complexity. There is the negative side, of course there is, to it, but our culture has told me, this is the way I relate to it, is yeah, that you're either with us in your cubicle, shut up and don't talk about this stuff,
Mhm. Mhm.
or it's monsters,
Mhm.
right? Both of those exist if you
Mhm.
want, but that's not all of it. And that's brought up in this story right at the beginning. It's just simply acknowledging that it's far more complicated than just, wow, the armor is twinkling brightly tonight while my son is born. I guess I won't pay any attention to that, even though it's weird. And no, he went to somebody to say who deals in that kind of complexity and subtlety, right?
Mhm.
What do you think about that? Or whatever you think about the story.
Yeah. One of the beautiful things I loved about that part of the story, and it connects to my own personal life as I'm wrestling, wrestling with this, with information that I received from the other side. So it's like that validation of reality. And this is something that is coming to the forefront. So you and I, we discussed, offline that, I had this reading, and in the reading, this, this person is telling me about reality as it will be due to the karma that, that I'm putting out into the world today and yesterday, right?
So what's a reader?
I'm a reader is just someone who can just read your pattern.
Okay.
Because as humans, we have habitual patterns, actions translate, to an echo chamber, which is, I mean, some people call it karma. Like we put out actions. If the action is skillful, that means that it is creating a positive effect in the world. And if the action is negative, and then it's creating negative effect in the world. And so for me, a reader is someone who can read the impact of one's actions and say, okay, predicted on this pattern that the future is going to look like this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so and so and so as I was engaging this person um, last week, and it was the first time I've ever had something like that done, because I've never had the financial privilege to just, this is a privilege, right? Like even in the Himsika story, he goes and sees the Bhagavad Gita, goes and sees the royal astrologer. Only people in the king's court has access to this. Only Brahmins can know their future. You understand what I'm saying? Like the peasants, they don't get to sit in front of a reader and get to figure out their future.
Yep.
Because they're probably in a survival state.
Yep.
So yeah, as I'm grappling with this, there's some things about my karma that is impacting the future that maybe I don't agree with, or that I don't understand in this moment. I don't understand the impact of my actions, but as it's being told to me, as this information is being told to me, one of the things that is clear and apparent to me is that I validate the things that are resonant with me or true. I validate that right away, because reality is communicating something to me. And so maybe this reader may be off, maybe off and may not know, what the hell they're talking about. But if there is some ounce of truth in there, I'm going to validate that, because reality wanted me to know that information, and so what I felt was very profound about the story, right, is that basically Bhagavad Gita, he's looking for validation. Like, did you experience what I thought, what I thought happened? So he gets three validations. The royal astrologer, right, quote unquote psychic, right,
Mm-hmm.
gives him a validation that this in fact did happen, right? And but then that comes with information that he didn't want to hear,
Mm-hmm.
about his son's life. The second validation he gets is from the townspeople, as he stops off on the road and he hears the town people, they're chattering, they're talking, and it's confirmed the second time. The third time he gets validation is from the king, who
Mm-hmm.
speaks about the weapons glowing, this thing that was over his bed that glowed, and he didn't know what to make out of it. So reality is communicating something, and he had got this validation three times. So whether the information was true or not,
Mm-hmm.
that his son would become a bandit, the thing that was clear to me in all of this was that there were signs that was given to him. It was validating the significance, and so I think that's something that's important to pay attention to.
Right. Right. Yeah. The issue of signs. That's one of the things to me too, is that there are some cultures that do acknowledge more complexity, the nuance and the subtlety of, the word you used, reality. Um, uh, and to be able to say that there's a lot more going on, and just be okay with that. Can we start with that? And so, yeah, there are some people who get weirded out by the idea of astrology, and we were talking before about how, like, for men in particular, men aren't supposed to do this.
Right.
In our
Right.
culture,
Right.
it's, what, are you
Right.
crazy? Right? And what do you think about that? Have you felt that?
Yeah, and so this is the other part, right? The conditioning, the deep conditioning of of American men American meaning men who were born and raised in United States culture, right? United States American culture. I realized that there's multiple countries in America,
Right.
and so it's this rugged individualism that I support my own reality,
Mhm.
and so and so and I'm supposed to know everything about my reality. I
Mhm.
don't need external validation. That is a feminine thing, to get external validation or just have someone support your reality. Not even on top of that, to even go deep within a reality, to say, hey, I'm curious about this, I want to know more, I'm opening up the heart to what is going on here, is actually, is actually a representation of the feminine, to go deep. As we hear stories about about I think we recently heard a story, Matt, about a girl getting thrown off a cliff into the water, right? And she goes and she falls down to the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, it's an Inuit myth, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right. And somewhere with that is a connection to forcing her to deal with her femininity, right? And,
Right.
you're not allowed to be precocious and mischievous. You need to connect to your inner femininity, your depth. So I'm going to throw you off the cliff into the ocean, right? So in this culture, we have something where we don't explore emotion, we don't explore reality in a way that is deep and meaningful and powerful. And so, and so in this, and so in the impact of that is that we don't validate reality as it is happening. And so, information that I was receiving from this reader person, the reader is like, you need to pay attention to these things that are happening in reality. Now, my first level of conditioning was to discount what was actually being shared with me, as this person don't know what they're talking about. You
Mhm.
know, I'm in control of my own reality. Um, so I think that for me, that speaks to the larger cultural dynamics, that there is a problem with having our realities interpreted, or wanting to go deeper into what may be going on in our lives and our reality, because that depth simply doesn't exist. I went all around the bush to
Yeah.
get to that. All right,
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm done for the morning, Matt. Go ahead, take it away.
Well, I mean, to me too, it really is about inclusivity. Is it okay for there to be this much complexity? Certainly in my calling in the feminine, one of the things I've had to notice, or I'd not had to, but just pay attention to the fact that I'm a man, but if I would, and that's truth, right? If I was a knight right now, I'd probably be wearing the emblem of Mother Mary on my chest because that's my deity.
Mm,
Now you could say, well, Matt, we've been in therapy. We know why you need to have a Mother Mary figure, right? That's all good. I get that. See, because I've paid attention. I've been to therapy. That's an opening up too. That's inclusivity. That's saying, okay, the therapist, like the reader, is going to be bringing me information based upon their study.
mm,
And we shared this before too. I told you I practice being a reader. I've done reading for people, right? And there is a practice. It's not just like bam, you wake up one day and you can do this. There are people who are talented. It's like people who play basketball know Michael Jordan. Like he's like gifted, and he could probably not practice every day and still be as gifted as he was, right? But he practiced every day. That's why he could fly. you know and the same thing with any gift, including paying attention to the subtleties like a reader does. You practice. There are certain meditations, there are certain awarenesses, practices of being aware in a certain way that encourage more and more. And basically the simple way I describe it lately is polishing the transmitter and the receiver, knowing what my intention is when I speak. What do I actually want? And when I listen, Do I have a filter over that says, even though this person is reaching out their hand to help me, because I'm conditioned to see anybody's reaching out to me that maybe they're going to hit me, I'm seeing it as that, right? So these are the filters that I have to take off and listen for exactly more closely to what actually is happening. And so I see that too in the story. That's why I keep saying this thing about that the light emanating out of the armor could have been an indication to everyone that here is a great warrior that's going to be a benefit for the community, not a threat to the community. And then you can actually go to the person who studied the stars that Bhagavad Gita went to. And I remember at the beginning of what you were saying that, I have to sometimes have discernment about the person who's doing the reading for me. That's why I was saying too at the beginning that it's okay to say, is this person who they say they are? Do they really have the skills and the practice for me to depend upon them? Because I'm going to invest in what they're sharing with me. Same thing with a therapist. Are you telling me, Matt, that you actually get to sit down with a therapist and say, I wonder if this is really the person for me? Plenty of times I've sat with a therapist for probably too long because I thought I need to just give up to this person and gave over my discernment. And so that's one of the things in the story. And, once people start to say that I can acknowledge that this is part of the reality, that it's this varied and subtle, that there is also a feeling of, for me anyways, that, okay, I'll just, whoever shows up, I see an ad for, astrologers on TV, I'll just give them a call. Or no, there can still be discernment. We need to be able to take the information and hold it and feel that we can trust it. But my experience is that the information, like you were saying, it's there, it's real, and we just have to decide whether or not we want to allow it. In the same way when we pray, do we want to allow that there's actually somebody on the other side of the veil listening? So that's what I wanted to say about it. I know that we had what?
Wonderful. I have a question for you. Can you give me just a few more minutes?
Yeah.
I'm going to take responsibility for the time violation.
Okay.
I take responsibility for
Right.
responsibility. So my
We're
question
going over
is,
the time? Is that what
yeah.
you said? Okay. Yeah.
But I want this.
Go.
I want this. Matt, what role does sensitivity? So you mentioned in the previous webcast that we're both sensitive creatures. And the first thing I did was go, oh, he's saying the S word. I've fought my whole life not to be cross-eyed and not to be sensitive. These are two things I'm always fighting against. I don't want to be sensitive, not in this culture. Sensitive means that you are impotent, you're ineffective, you need to be over there with the women, you're not a real man. And then there's something that is like downright golly about being sensitive. What does sensitivity mean for you when you say we are sensitive beings? What does that mean for you?
From my study, you can't be a warrior unless you're sensitive. Doesn't work. You can be a brute, but you're going to get knocked on the head very quickly if you're not awake to the subtleties in the world, So, I mean, I can offer up examples, but sensitivity is an absolute necessity. That's why, and I think in really intelligent cultures, the warriors are arranging flowers, writing poetry, because it was recognized, and they dedicated themselves to a paramour that they would never have. You get it? Always the yearning, but never having. Okay, that's a sensitivity. That's an incredible intelligence, that I'm going to dedicate my fighting to a woman who's married to somebody else. I'll never have her. That was what they understood what that meant. Okay, I will give some examples. The Lovers Battalion, right? that was in the Thracian army around the time of Alexander the Great. They, the Lovers' Legion, they were pairs of men who were homosexual lovers. And the fact was, they recognized they were never beaten until they ran up against Alexander and that they became part of his army, I think. They were never beaten because everybody recognized you hurt one of them, the other one's going to go berserk. And they're skilled. They're dedicated to this. And one last thing, this whole idea that women are the sensitive ones. Excuse me, and I have that in me too. I hear that that's a part of our belief system in the West, right? That women are the sweet, sensitive ones. Yet don't bump into a mama grizzly bear with her cubs, because the males don't do. Male grizzly bears who can be twice their size run away from mama grizzly bears, from my experience. Not all the time, but they recognize that that's where the juice is. That's where the power is. Do not mess. Why do we have sayings like hell hath no fury like a woman scorned? Because there is an energy in the activated, Kali angry woman that is immense. It is about being sensitive to and understanding. I'm kind of, I think I'm going all over the place about this. But one of the
Not
things
really.
about being sensitive is that it isn't, you can't, you can't be a warrior unless you're sensitive, right? The great Irish myth, Cuchulainn, they didn't send him off when he became the greatest warrior in in Ireland. They didn't send him to a man to train. They sent him to the great woman warrior on an island in between Scotland and Ireland. I forget her name, but they knew, you want a warrior, go to the equivalent is the Valkyrie, the female warriors. So this whole thing about like sensitivities over there with the women, and yes, I also brought up gay, that gay men are sensitive. And then we got the tough guys over here, the Ronald Reagans and I'm going to get into politics. The Donald Trumps, yeah, they're like, oh, I'm carrying a flag and I'm kick your ass and all that. Oh, please.
I wanted to mention something. I had an epiphany as you were sharing. And so one of the things that came up for me in my life, I was called sensitive. And the only thing I was doing was saying the reality as it was.
Right.
All I would say to an adult as a child, you're drinking too much. Well, you've had, 4 drinks. That's scary. I don't want you to die.
Yeah.
And it's like, go play with your damn toys. You know what I mean? It's like, go play with your damn toys. He's sensitive.
I had that.
He's sensitive.
Yep.
But all I was doing was validating reality. So what that taught me, and I'm not implicating my parents, right? My mom who damn near single-handedly raised me. She didn't have a drinking problem. So don't call my mom talking about, Miss Kathy, I didn't know that you were a drunk. You were a closeted drunk. No, I'm not speaking about my mom. It could be various other people in the community. But it's just pointing out what was apparent and real to me was, you're sensitive. You need to learn how to stuff that.
Right.
So this was my early teachings on disconnecting from reality. As a boy, like, you need to disconnect from reality.
Right.
And so it is kind of hard to receive those, that when there is some concurrence, that I validate that, but that is a skill that I'm building. I'm gonna validate that. If I'm feeling shitty, or if I'm feeling some type of difficult or adverse feeling, a big part of my practice is going in the body. Where is that?
Right.
Where's that located? It's such foreign territory, but that's all you're doing. There's nothing to the sensitivity. It's just noting and locating what it is that you see.
Right. And, we were talking, I think it was you and I talking about this before too, about, yeah, absolutely. I hear the whole sensitive thing as a child. and I'm one of these. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, and women are good at noticing subtleties.
Yes. And they go to the wound, whereas men try to go away from it. Have you ever done this? You stub your toe, or I'll make I statements. I stub my toe, and I realize that consciously I've put my foot on the other side of the room. You stupid foot. I'm actually consciously doing that. And to be able to actually say, no, come here.
Mhm.
I'll
There you go.
hold you. That takes sensitivity, that takes courage, because it's bucking the system. The system I was taught is if you're a child and you're sensitive, you're an annoyance. Same thing with, I will say, my dad died of cancer, had, well, one of the things that killed him. When I was a child, I would go to him and say, hey, could you please stop smoking? And it irritated the crap out of him. And I
Okay.
remember scary moments of being yelled at because I was saying, you know, you're coughing like so much, Dad. Could you stop smoking? Shut up.
Yeah. Yep.
Get
There
out.
you go.
You know, because he had his things. He depended upon smoking to make life okay for him. The high from the calming of the nicotine.
Right.
Though he was dependent upon that. The last thing he needed was in the house where he felt anxious, having a little voice say to him, you're killing yourself. Please stop doing that. Because he probably also had that voice inside of him
There you go.
saying, stop smoking. You're killing
You're
yourself.
killing yourself. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And in this house where he felt anxious, the last place he wanted to have stop smoking was here. Right. I simply think that it's difficult for parents to have children that are sensitive. And sad news for those parents, all children are that sensitive.
Because they
All
notice.
they have access to all kinds of doors to the other world, to the nature world, to their own world, to their parents' world. And it creeps parents out who have bought into the cubicle. I'm staying here. Nobody, I won't bother anybody. Nobody bothers me. Doesn't work. It doesn't.
Man,
Yeah.
man, that was wonderful.
Oh,
That was amazing. Thank you.
yeah,
It's
absolutely.
like my brain just kind of whoosh, like a pinata. It just kind of bust open and all kind of Snicker bars and Three Musketeers just
Well, I
popped
mean,
out of my mind.
well, thank you. But can you think of all of the kids suffering because of this? I mean, we talk about children who are hungry, but I'm talking about because of our system, millions and millions of children are made to feel this way every day.
No, as a kid, I'm not gonna lie, they made it seem like I was, like mutilating myself, cross dressing. There's nothing wrong with cross dressing, but they just made it seem like I was just doing the most, and all I was doing was just pointing to what was consistent with what I was seeing. Like you said,
It hurts.
can you not? I noticed this. This is how it makes me feel, and because of that, I got this negative tag. Sensitivity is meant to shame you when you have that
Right.
that name attached to you. I remember being an undergraduate. I was a criminal justice major, have a BS degree, a bullshitting degree in criminal justice. And I remember early on, because I was asking questions about the mental stability of policemen. I mean, the police is who killed my dad. So of course I'm going to want to know about the mental stability of police officers and what can we do to cure depression behind the blue curtain. And people were saying to me, you're a social worker, and that meant you were sensitive.
Hmm.
You don't belong here.
Right.
You don't belong here.
Well, it's part of the sickness of our culture. That's all. And that's why we're here in the cross-eyed crucible, right? You had the courage to go to the place that killed your dad, right? That's the same courage of a child
Took his
going
life.
up to, I mean, because grown-ups are giants when we're 5, right? They are full-on trolls and ghouls if they want to be, or friendly giants, right? Same thing as a child going up to a parent who's drinking, smoking, whatever they're doing that's killing them and saying, you're killing yourself. That takes tremendous courage. And somebody who is 1/10 of your weight of me as an adult, right? So you did the same thing. And what I think, are you telling me that when you did that, people were saying that no, sensitive people like you aren't supposed to look behind the blue curtain?
Yeah. So basically, the label that I got early on as an undergraduate student trying to find his way in this program was that I was a social worker. It's a small band of students, right? So everybody's in this program because they're training. One day they have aspirations to be county sheriffs and prison wardens, and things, administrators of the criminal legal system. And I was trying to heal, in essence, I was healing the system, one, because I was healing myself,
Right.
because I had this tension around, I wanted to choke out and kill the officers who killed my dad
Yep.
from taking my daddy away from me. And so this was the more humane way, right? I'm taking the Martin Luther King approach, of understanding what is the pain and suffering of these folks. And instead of bringing hostility. And what I got in return was that you're sensitive. This doesn't belong here. And you're a social worker. In the name, we're going to give you a social worker, which means sensitive one.
Right. Okay. So, yes. Also, the sensitivity that you knew that you were healing yourself while you were trying to help heal other people. That's
Well,
a
I didn't know that at the time, though.
well, but
I
I
didn't
mean,
know
you
that.
do now. I mean,
Yeah.
that kind of self-awareness, right? Also, I want to acknowledge too that my father-in-law has said, "Don't mistake kindness for weakness." Um, there is, like the scripture says, and I have to be real careful quoting scriptures because I really don't know them very well. But there's a time for, and I'm paraphrasing. There's a time for Martin Luther King courage, and there's a time for Malcolm X courage, and they're both courage. If I get addicted to, I've got to turn the other cheek all the time, that's a compulsive behavior for me, and I have to be aware of that. And I'm not sure that Martin Luther King was always turning his cheek, by the way. Right?
It wasn't.
Right. Yeah. Uh, and then also, Malcolm X was a sensitive person who talked about the violence perpetrated on people of his skin complexion and community, and therefore talked about what do we need to do in order to address that. And so he went to the warrior that we picture as the warrior, want to kick some ass, but he didn't do that. Right, from what I can see, he didn't storm the Capitol, right?
Right.
So uh,
He didn't attempt to kidnap a governor.
you're right. I mean, yes, he did talk about these things. He was, but I think most of the time he was talking about the violence that was being perpetrated upon people of his skin tone. And the people of the other skin tone didn't like hearing that. He was pointing it out. He was being sensitive, right? So I see that's too, like the thing that you were saying, like Malcolm of Martin Luther King, you were being like Martin Luther King. I think that you were being just warrior courageous. You
Yeah,
were
warrior
stepping to the
courageous.
thing.
Yeah. And ultimately, I'm still, working with the criminal legal system to bring true justice, healing, and we have to be able to understand our suffering on both sides of the equation. What is what is consistent with the reality, because this is how we're going to identify our suffering, is if we step into reality as it is, and
Right.
that is what we want it to be, and then we simply point to what it is that is ailing us. That's the only way we can cure this, is by cultivating presence. And so that's my Buddhist talk for
Well,
for the
yeah, and I want to say too, and thank you for bringing up the Buddhist element too, because there is a warrior determination, a warrior grit that is required to follow any positive path of awakening. Without the warrior, there is no long-term artist. Everybody thinks of artists as like, Vincent van Gogh lopping their ear off, they're loopy, and they just want to toss paint. No, if you're going to live the life, you've got to have that kind of warrior determination. Same thing from my perspective. You tell me, if you're going to follow the Buddhist path, you better have that kind of, I'm standing my post. I will stay here and meditate for 45 minutes. That requires warrior energy. Am I wrong?
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because people, they think that meditation is a cakewalk. It's probably one of the toughest activities. I mean, I would rather go run 4 miles, and sometimes I will go run 4 miles than to actually sit with myself and in bear witness to what is actually creating deep suffering in my life. But the
Yeah.
beautiful thing about that is that you inherit what naturally comes to you as a result of doing that work is peace.
Yes.
But you can't get to peace without understanding the negativity that one holds within oneself.
Right. Which brings me back to the stories, because to me, working with a story the way that we are, nurturing, tending, tracking, right? The negativity inside is displayed outside in the story. We take what's inside and we take it outside, and we all get to look at it and hang our stuff on whatever hook we feel like hanging it on. So, for me, as I'm listening to this, I'm like, well, I want to just show everybody this has been story work, what we've done today. We haven't named multiple things within the story itself, but we have named things.
We
And
named
it
enough.
sent us off into tracking things along the way and coming back around to story.
Mhm.
It started with Ahimsaka / for me, I like saying both of the names, Ahimsaka and Gulimala,
Mala. Mhm.
right? Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. Which one are they? Right?
Kevin Martin, Matt Faulkner.
Right.
Matt Faulkner, Kevin Martin.
There you go. Which one is the white guy with the black wings and which one
Right.
is the black guy with white wings? You tell me. I don't know.
No.
Right? This is what happens in the cross-eyed crucible, and why it's scary. Why it's scary, because it's allowing for the multiplicity of reality, the subtlety of reality, and the ego that kind of has to get checked a little bit at the door. You got to bring it in with you, right? Because it's also the part that says time to go, right? But the ego, from my experience, doesn't want to acknowledge this multiplicity.
Amen, amen. So,
Wow.
Thank you, Matt. Are you ready? Are you ready to leave the warmth of the crucible?
Yeah, it got hot in here, didn't it? It got hot in a good way. Some stuff got baked. Woohoo! Maybe things that got baked a little bit that need to be cooked off, burned off a little bit. Maybe things got baked that just needed a little more time in the oven to gel up and become something that's really a reliable, dependable thing. This is what happens for me in the crucible. And I really don't know until maybe a couple of days afterwards. I'll remember things. I'll start to behave in a certain way to a certain phenomena in my life. And I'll go, wow, we talked about this exact feeling I'm having right now in the crucible. Thank you. So thank you, Kevin, and thank you, everybody, for being here. Who's walking us out?
I'll go ahead and do it.
Okay.
No. I walked this in.
Yeah, that's right. You did. Okay. So grandmothers and grandfathers, man, my head's, I'm feeling like so many gifts, and feeling a little emotional because of thinking about the children, that we talked about, like on a daily basis, every day. I'm not talking about children starving. That's a reality. I'm not talking about physical, emotional, sexual abuse. I'm talking about this element of grown-ups who are afraid of sensitivity and what they'll do to their sensitive children. The abandonment, the emotional abandonment. I remember that, and I've done it, Please keep helping us, ancestors. This is woven into me so tightly, I can't get it out on my own. I need help of trusted friends, and I need your help, ancestors. So I'm grateful for my brother, Kevin. I'm grateful for the people who have walked in here willingly over the threshold with us. And I'm grateful for these ancestors who have said, I'm here with you. And this is my intention too. I want to help heal this in the cross-eyed crucible. I wish us all to take this warmth with us. Grab up some of it. It's a thing. It's in the air in the crucible. Grab it up, stick it in your pocket, put it in your, your hoodie, in the front pocket of your shirt, wherever you want to. Eat some of it. Take it with us throughout the week. It lasts. But I know that if we don't do the work, it won't stick around just because I'm a nice guy. I have to do the work. And this is part of the work for me. So thank you, everyone. This is Matt from Michigan, the Blue Hand State. And I cross the threshold and I say thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Amen. I'm out.
Amen. I'm just going to go ahead and follow you out, and just holding the ancient indigenous Irish elders in my heart and mind, for the magic that they were able to create in the world, of feeling the warmth and protection of those who had a connection to